Hi, my name's Wait, I need something first. In case you had any doubts, my hat does say Little Papa on it, yes. It's time to tell a Christmas story.
Hi, my name's Romy. Cassie and Mushka are currently not here, but Winston Pumpernickel III, Live His Mother's Life, is behind me. And I watched a really interesting film last night. So I am a bit of an auteur, don't ask me what that means because I don't know, of Christmas films. The good, the bad, the worse, and the even worse. They have a special place in my heart. I really enjoy watching Christmas movies and, you know, they teach us so many important lessons like
meeting you in my past made me want to change who I was in my present to have you in my future.
And those are just things that we wouldn't learn without Christmas movies. So I thought I would pull out my Santa drag and tell you a little bit about the movie I watched last night because it was really something else. In fact, I am 99% sure it was Christmas Royal Fanfic. I'm serious. There is one reason and one reason only that I wanted to watch this film, and it is because it had Rachel Saskin in it, who I watched and loved in Reign, where she played Queen Elizabeth and had the exact same British accent that she has when she's playing a Brit in this film. It's great. It was a little bit uncanny because she has a very cultured British accent, very posh, very royal, which I associate with her playing Queen Elizabeth in the time of... I watched all, 5 seasons of Reign, and I still don't actually know what time period that's set in, which might not be surprising because the costumes really didn't tell me. Is it set in 2019? It could be. Nostradamus, he could just be an influencer, to be quite honest. But strap in, because this royal fan fictitious film has it all. Okay, so the film starts out and we meet Claire, our main character, played by the delightful Rachel Saskin. So Claire is a secret agent, a super spy in the British Secret Service, and she and her partner are scouting out this Christmas market where the prince, who is Harry in this situation I believe, the fourth in line to the throne, he's very involved in charity work. I don't know where that came from. He is collecting presents for a Christmas drive and she sees him, but her eyes are really on this present that someone's carrying. The present's handed over, the present's handed over. Someone goes out with the present, and Claire, anytime she's speaking into her inner earpiece, she just holds her hand like this. And the baddies do the same, and they're trying to be incognito, you know, they're in casual clothes, but they're walking around talking to themselves like this in the middle of the Christmas market. So it's really a little bit obvious. So they do this whole thing, and the present, which is Claire's target, is dropped in the middle of the street. She also wants to get the baddie, and she's like, control, control, permission to arrest. And they're like, go ahead, Claire, you can arrest. And she says, I'm with the British Secret Service. And they don't stop, they run off. And then you see that they're watching her and they're like, this went great. Now there's many problems with this opening scene, and it's not just that the present is ugly, it's that a member of the Secret Service picked up a present lying in the middle of the street that they knew was a dangerous material. It turned out to be a teddy bear with like palace info on it, but she just picks it up and holds it in the middle of this empty street as a car tears off. She thinks that saying she's in the British Secret Service is going to stop the baddie from running away, and no one at any point thinks, do you think maybe they did a switcheroo? Because why would they just conveniently drop the present that they worked so hard to steal? And I thought that was the whole plot point, but apparently it wasn't. Apparently they just dropped the present because they wanted the Secret Service to get it, because that all led into their plan. But oh no, the British throne is at stake, because when they open this teddy bear, it has a little chip in it, and it has the information on the castle in Kensington Palace. They have to get some secret agents in, but they can't tell the royals they're sending secret agents in because they'll feel like their privacy is being infiltrated and not respected. So they have to secretly send spies into the palace. One of them's going to be a new bodyguard, and one of them's going to be the Royal Nanny. She's told that it would take 4 years of extensive training and then another year of work experience before this leader of the nanny school would ever put a nanny in the royal household. And she's got 24 hours to learn the ropes, which is reading and this great scene where she's kind of like chewing her finger, looking at these pages and her notebook. And the head nanny comes in and just, no one's talking. She just points and then changes the page and points and nods. And Claire's like, oh my God, yes! And starts writing. And the nanny's like, you're doing great, Claire. And learning how to fight with an umbrella. It's 22 days before Christmas. Minus a day where she's trying to get this present, minus 24 hours where she trains to be a nanny. It's 20 days till Christmas. Less than 3 weeks this film takes place in. So we meet the royal family. We have the king, who is not present, but who we know is about. Then there's a bit of exposition about these are all of the royal family members. There's the queen. I thought personally she was styled quite like Kate Middleton. And then we have the 2 royal children. The 2 royal children are a boy and a girl. The girl, from the way they tied her hair back to the detail of the Peter Pan collars, this girl was styled like Charlotte. And then the little boy prince, who's a little bit cheeky, he is styled exactly like Prince Louis. So the minute that they came on the screen, my fanfic senses were trembling. Then there is their dad, who is off screen the entire time, working in the RAF. And you know, maybe that's just something that happens in royal family. You have your service. But I mean, come on. We needed Harry, and that is where the quirky uncle, 4th in line to the throne, comes in. He's the fun uncle. He's not like the other royals. In his house, nannies aren't allowed. In his house, fun is allowed. No one's treated like a royal in his house. He's fun, he's different, he's cool, he's quirky, and he loves working for charity. And I just thought, why didn't they go all the way out? They've literally styled every other person like a member of the royal family. Why didn't they just go all out and give us a redhead? But no, they copped out. Fanfic dreams ruined. Whoever wrote this must have been gutted, I would imagine. I certainly would have been if it was me. It wasn't. So Nanny's introduced to the house. The kids don't really like the nanny. They try and get rid of their nanny. They're a bit old for a nanny in their opinion, but she knows she's got to do what she's got to do. She ends up winning over the kids by filling up their security service car to take them to their private school with Christmas baubles. And the kids are like, I didn't do it. And she's like, I wonder who could have done it, wink, wink. I was really confused until that reveal, because the children wouldn't have been able to get away with that because the car is like constantly guarded. And, you know, there is this big security threat. People want to steal the kids. People want to steal the family. So who did it? This is actually really dangerous. And then she said, oh, I did it. And I was like, oh, because she's friends with the head of security. She's friends with the new guy. He didn't know anything about it. He didn't know anything about it. How did Claire fill the car with baubles, like 300, and no one knew? I don't know. Don't ask me. Apparently the Secret Service was sleeping that day. I wish I was sleeping. But little Papa has work to do. So she builds a repertoire with the kids, but the fun uncle doesn't like her. And that is because he was helping the kids try and get rid of her. And the first time she meets him, he has just put a bowl of cooked spaghetti on the top of her bedroom door. And she's like, I think you're forgetting something. And he's like, I'm not forgetting anything. And she pushes the door open and the spaghetti falls on him. And apparently he kind of hates her because of that. And she ends up apologizing, but literally nothing to apologize for, babes. He was going to put that spaghetti on you. So Claire realizes that she has to win over the prince. And I'm like, oh, this is the story we're going with, is it? The fun, single prince who's 4th in line to the throne, and the nanny who's actually a secret agent. This really feels like YN royal fanfic. Very British YN formal fanfic. Claire is also told that the Funkle could either be in danger or be the threat itself. So she really has to get close to him. So she goes to the nanny and she's like, what am I going to do? And the nanny says, here's my tip. And the tip is that the next time Claire goes to drop the kids off at the uncle's house, she just says, I'm going to set the head of all nannies on you. If you don't let me in, I can have fun. And then they play a game of really, really awkward and bad to watch charades that went on for too long. And then he falls in love with her because he sees that she can have fun. It's that simple, folks. It's that simple.
Now, if you thought this film couldn't get any more exciting, it's about to.
Little Mr. Prince is like, Mummy, I need help with my school project. And Mummy's like, I'd love to help you. And then Mummy's secretary is like, you don't have time, ma'am. And then Mummy's like, surely I could have a bit of time to help with this school project. And his secretary's like, ma'am, you ain't got no time, darling. And then Claire pulls some strings. So they work out that they can have some time. And then the secretary cuts those strings and puts Princess on an airplane. And then Claire is like, hey, mates, can you ground that plane, please? Could you ground the plane? So then Kate Middleton's stand-in comes in. She goes to do the school project and gives Claire the night off. And then the Funkle's like, Claire, do you want to come for a walk in the garden with me? Oh my God, I'm so awkward, but also really fun and charming. And Claire's like, yes, I'll go for a walk in the garden. That would be nice. And then they nearly kiss. And this is when I got a little bit incensed because Claire has dedicated her life to working for her country and for her royal family. And I just didn't think, she's so dedicated. Her work is her life. And this comes up in a really interesting way that I forgot to mention that I'll go back to. He leans in for a kiss and she's kind of like, yep, guess I love him. They don't have that good chemistry. They've known each other for a week tops at this stage. And it just felt so untrue that she would be willing to put romance in front of her dedication, her lifelong dedication to her job and keeping the family safe. And she keeps saying, it could never be Mr. Funkle, it couldn't be, he's not a baddie, I trust him, I would bet my life on it. Babe, you've known him for a week. You don't know him. You don't know him. You don't know the power plays at play here, or the plays of power at power here. Claire has also agreed to help Funkle with his charity event. So she goes over when the kids are dropped off at school and immediately they run into this millionaire and he's like, I've been trying for years to get this guy to donate. He could literally change lives and he just won't. He loves his money more than he loves helping kids. They meet the millionaire and Funkle's like, will you donate, please? Anything will do. And the millionaire's like, I like my money. I think I'd like to help end poverty instead of giving presents to kids. And Claire's like, stop, please. I can tell you that I was brought up in a children's home. I lived in a children's home and just one toy, one present. We spent our whole year dreaming of this day and it meant so much to us and you give people hope and I will donate £100, please. Will you match my pledge? You donate £100 and I will donate £100. Funkle, how many toys will that give? And Funkle says, £200. That would give toys for 4 children. So the toys are £50 each, guys. £50 each, which is roughly 100 Australian dollars. That's a big toy. You can get real good toys for $15. So I'm expecting, okay, I'm keeping that in the noggin. Because when I see one of these toys, I want it to be bloody marvellous. We'll touch back on that later.
Yeah, I didn't come back to that. So basically, there's this event and they take presents to this specific children's home on this specific day, and it just happens to be the one that Claire was brought up in. So she gets really emotional, but they go in and the kids are unwrapping these presents. And I notice the shittiest little dump truck. It looks like it came from like a really cheap store, $5 max, £2.50 maximum on that dump truck. It was someone is sifting money out of this charity, because if that kid was allocated 100 Australian dollars for their gift and they got a $5 dump truck, that's $95. And if we circle back around to that $95, where's it gone? Who's got it? Because the other presents didn't look like they were expensive either. They really glossed over them, but they zoomed in on this dump truck that had no labeling on it. I thought, oh, maybe it's like a Tonka or a Little Tykes or something. No, unbranded. They didn't even go for the branded. Where's the $95? That's a lot of revenue. No wonder the millionaire didn't want to donate. That's all I'm saying. It's a conspiracy.
And the millionaire looks at Claire, and then he looks at Funkle and says, how many presents do you still need? And Funkle says, roughly 1,000 presents. And the millionaire says, God, I'll do it. Maybe you could work for me, Nanny. You're great. She single-handedly solves the problem by telling the story of how a present gave her hope. And that story is important because Claire talks about how she grew up in a children's home and she was never adopted. And later, when she's in the garden with the prince, she says, I grew up in a children's home and I was never adopted and I never learned to trust anyone but myself. And he says, that's really similar to me actually, because I grew up really rich with a big family, but I never learned to trust outsiders. I only trust the family. And she's like, I feel you. And I'm thinking, my God, read the room. That's not the same. Having lots of money and a big family is not the same as having no money and no family and never being adopted. Buddy, not relatable. Not relatable content. So there's going to be a big party for the charity event and MI5 wants to cancel it because of the security threat, and Kate Middleton's stand-in is like, I'm having a normal Christmas with my family. My children are looking forward to this. We're going ahead with the party. She's actually so brilliant. She stands up to all these men and just shuts them down. And I love her. She really just... She's so clear thinking. She's brilliant. They have the party and Funkle is like, Claire, would you go with me? And Claire's like, I guess I could. And she literally comes out in Christmas Barbie. She comes out in a Christmas Barbie outfit. They have a fun time. Things happen. It was really pretty boring. But then, like, the next day, someone tries to kidnap the children. There's two of them. Someone tries to kidnap the two children in front of Claire and Funkle, and they get away with Funkle, and one of the kidnappers is like, Claire, let go of the children and we'll give you the Funkle and we'll take the children. And then the Funkle's like, Claire, don't do it. And I was, oh, buddy, she's bundling them into the SUV as we talk, except it's a VW truck bus. She's not looking back for you. Funkle gets kidnapped, kids are safe, Claire reveals all to Kate Middleton's stand-in, and Kate Middleton's stand-in looks at her and I'm like, they're not gonna have a stupid, why didn't you tell me thing? Kate Middleton's stand-in just said, thank you for protecting my family. And Claire says, I'm gonna do everything in my power to get Funkle back. And then she is promptly taken off the job by MI5. And she decides to go rogue at Christmas. Oh yeah, there was also a scene where everyone put a coin in a pond and made a Christmas wish, and everyone made the wish, including the bodyguard, and Claire's just standing staring at her penny, and the kids are like, Claire, are you gonna make a wish? And she makes a wish and there's a really loud like fake splatting noise as the coin goes in, and we're gonna find out what that wish was later, and it's not gonna be what you think. So anyway, Claire goes undercover. She finds out that someone's involved in being a mole, and it's actually this big conspiracy by the head of MI5 who wants to have a big kidnapping operation happen with the royals so that he and another country's secret services can join to be a joint secret service, which will be better. I didn't really understand it and wasn't really paying attention. I was eating an ice cream at the point and I just bought my dressmaking doll. So I had more interesting things to focus on. And Claire, whilst being rogue, finds out where Funkle's being held and infiltrates it, and it's this big warehouse room with stacks of like 6 boxes on either side, and then like spaces in between the boxes, so box, space, and then an alley down the middle, and then the Funkle's tied up to a chair at the end of the alley. The door is open, someone goes in giving them takeaway, and Claire puts her umbrella in the doorway to stop it closing. It was open. You could have just gone in. So then she goes in and really does Pink Panther sneaking about back and forth across the gap instead of just staying on one side of the boxes and walking up the side. I didn't really get it. She uses her umbrella to knock a couple of people around and drag them out of sight. And then she drags the back of his chair out of sight, and it grates horribly across the concrete, and nobody hears. And she unties him, and they're hiding by the time the two cronies look around and they're like, where's Funkle gone? And then they push some empty boxes on one of them, and that incapacitates her, and then Claire hits the other with her umbrella, and that incapacitates him. And Funkle's like, cool. And he never actually has that stereotypical outburst of, you lied to me, was everything fake, was any of it real? There is just like a little moment afterwards where he says, thank you for rescuing me, Claire, and she said something about, the only thing I lied about was my name, because she changed her last name from like church to monastery or something like that. So then they go home, and Prince William Doppelganger is brought back from the RAF because he wasn't going to be able to spend the Christmas with his family because he was on duty over Christmas at the last minute, and because it was such a high security threat, he was brought back and he can spend Christmas with his family, and they're all so happy. And then Kate Middleton Standing gets a phone call on her mobile, and she says, yes, really, yes, she's here, all right, it's for you. And Claire walks over after having a little moment with Funkle, and she says, hello, who is this? Sir? Oh yes, your majesty. Oh, thank you, sir. She gets off the phone and she's like weeping. Actually a really gorgeous scene of acting, because she's allegedly listening to a conversation from the king on her phone, and she emotes so beautifully and actually starts crying, and I'm just like, what was on the other end of that? Because it wasn't a king. You're a great actor. I love this. She gets off the phone and she's like, that was the king! And they're like, and she's like, oh yeah, I needed to say that other bit. Just before she gets the phone call, Funkle's like, what did you wish for Christmas? And then she gets the phone call, blah, 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 crying. It was the king. She says, he's asked me to spend Christmas with you all at Sandringham. And we find out that that was her Christmas wish. She'd known these people for a week, and she said, I'm going to spend Christmas with them at the country castle. And she does, and that all took place in 20 days. And Kate Middleton Standing is like, you're going to be part of the family soon, especially if my brother hurries up about it. And I'm like, that's fast. And then the film ends with it. This film really had something, and it was actually unusual and surprising enough and different enough from the rote standard of Christmas films that I watch that I was pretty invested, other than the parts where I wasn't, because I was eating an ice cream and thinking about my dress form. So this was 99% for sure royal fanfic, and that's just bloody hilarious to me. Pip pip. That is gluten. That's actually potentially, you don't know her. She is on her first day. She could be really badly allergic to gluten, and you've just done that. You just killed your nanny. You might be a royal, but you've just killed your nanny. Who's going to tell the king? Who's going to tell the king? Who's going to tell MI5? They're not going to cover that up for you. She's their best agent. Have you seen her? She's also a goddess.